Live and also live on our Fox Local streaming app. I would like to thank you for joining me tonight as we are about to break down what we know at this point about an approaching tropical system called Helene. It is now 7:30 and I have gone on my Facebook page, Jonathan Stacey at Fox 5, to ask for your questions. You're on the station Facebook page, perhaps you're watching on our streaming app, and I know many questions are going through your mind. So tonight, we would like for you to grant me the liberty to kind of unbutton, if you will, and to break down what I know about the impacts of this storm and how North Georgia will literally be impacted over the next 72 hours. This should all be said and done off the bat by the time you wake up on Saturday morning. But tomorrow, especially Thursday and Friday, there are going to be some rough days around here as this storm, at this point, is set to make an impact in our state directly. So what I'll be doing here is I'll be going through our Facebook messages as we get them, our Facebook comments, so I can kind of respond to you in real time. I do want to provide a bit of a disclaimer off the top here. I cannot specifically give instructions or give a specific forecast about a specific city. Tropical weather doesn't really work like that. I can track cold fronts, I can track some pop-up storms and where they may be heading within the next 10 to 15 minutes, but that's literally what we cannot do with tropical weather. There are a number of models out there, and we basically use those models and how they trend to get an idea, an ensembling, if you will, to get an idea of what direction, the intensity that the storm will ultimately take. So let's go ahead and just get to some basic questions. I'm not going to be too in the weeds tonight or too scientific. I want to get you the information that you need to know. So let's go ahead with this here. What should I do? Well, it's Tuesday. The impacts for the tropical activity began on Thursday. I'll make sense of that because for many of you, it will be raining as early as tomorrow, and for some even tomorrow morning. But at this point in time, these are my forecast-based recommendations in line with the state and local officials, what they are saying. This could change tonight, it could change tomorrow, but as it stands right now, no evacuation orders have been issued for North Georgia. Once again, these are recommendations as of Tuesday night. That's a no. What they are saying right now in terms of government officials is that you should shelter in place. You should be able to ride this out because what will likely impact North Georgia is a tropical storm, not necessarily a hurricane, despite its landfall as a potentially Cat 3 major hurricane sometime late Thursday going into Friday morning. You should prepare for power outages, and so that takes on a number of things. What are you going to do with the stuff inside your refrigerator? What are you going to do in terms of power, charging your cell phones, getting information, having a weather radio? That's what you should think about as you prepare for outages. The system itself, as you're going to see me explain tonight, is going to be a pretty short-lived system in terms of immediate impacts. However, if you have multiple waves of energy that come through that spawn power outages as a result of downed trees or whatnot, it could take more than a day for the power to come back on. So we have to think beyond the duration of the actual weather impact and say, okay, well, what happens if I get to Friday night and my power is still not on? We need to consider that when we look at the question. Should I cancel outdoor plans? If you joined me last night, I would have said maybe, maybe not, maybe yes. Tonight, I'm going with a yes because the models really have not shifted. In fact, they're coming more in line. It's going to be a downright rainy day. Either it's going to be the winds that's the problem, the spin up tornadoes, and more than anything, the flash flooding that will likely come on the backs of rainfall. Should I protect my property? Well, it depends on where you live. At this point, in terms of deeper preparation, you may want to reference your documents, your insurance paperwork, get all of the stuff you need together so you can grab it and go if need be. But it really depends on where you live and what type of structure you live in and whom you live with. If you live alone, the preparations may be different if you have someone who's elderly or children who live with you. If you have a lot of windows, if you live near trees, you're going to have to kind of adjust. You're going to have to look and say, okay, I got this big tree outside, or I've had storms that have come through in the past and they've snapped trees in my yard. I don't want that happening again. Or it's happened in my neighborhood. It's happened to my neighbor. I don't want to deal with that. So that's going to really be a maybe situation. And as we go through the forecast, I'm going to try to give you some suggestions and some ideas of things you can do really within the next 24 to 36 hour period until we get through all this. Let's take a look at our storm. Still a tropical storm, Helene, at this hour. This was pretty disorganized yesterday. This storm it's been what we call a tropical gear, and it's kind of basically just been pestering areas to the south of the Yucatan Peninsula here in Central America, Honduras, Nicaragua. They've been getting rain from this little blob of storms for more than a week. Okay, so it finally got its act together, said, okay, I'm going to become something, and it found a path to move northward. That's the path that will guide it into North Georgia after making landfall, likely along the Florida Panhandle or Big Bend area. So as of that 5 o'clock advisory, we've seen an uptick in the winds and is showing some forward motion right now to the west northwest at 12 miles an hour. It's taken over the Yucatan Peninsula with heavy rain and downpours. And right now, once again, it's still forming, and we're still trying to find that real nice core or center of circulation. But we know that's going to happen because it's going to start to hook a bit of a right as it moves into the eastern Gulf of Mexico. And as a result of that, the Florida Peninsula and the Panhandle, of course, is starting to issue tropical alerts. So here's what we have here. We have a hurricane watch here in this lavender shading, and that hurricane watch is impacting some areas just to the west of I-75 there and along I-10. Familiar with this area has met many of landfalling hurricanes. As you get into Tallahassee and Alachipelago there, going across the Big Bend, and even a little bit further south as you get into more of the central Florida, North Tampa Bay, you have a hurricane warning. And that's where they're expecting, obviously, hurricane force conditions to start within the next 36-hour period. In terms of that hurricane watch in the lavender shading here, there are Georgia counties that were included at that 5 o'clock advisory. Lowndes County, which is the home to Valdosta there on either side of the I-75 corridor. And then as we move a little bit further to the north and out to the east, we have a tropical storm watch that's in effect. And that watch includes Albany, going all the way out to Savannah, Golden Isles, Brunswick, even Jacksonville, as we're starting to bring in some of those Atlantic counties into the conversation at this point. So we also have a round of tropical storm warnings, and that includes Panama City and the coastal areas as you get a little bit closer to the Gulf shores down there along 30A offshore at this point. So that's the watch warning situation. We're going to see those hurricane watches turn to warnings and the tropical storm watches turn to warnings as the storm gets closer. So let's go ahead and look at the timing here. Here's the latest forecast cone. It scathes the Yucatan Peninsula, rolls over Cancun. Not a great week to be vacationing there. So it's now 2 o'clock on Thursday, and the storm has been upgraded to Cat 3. That's a major hurricane at that point. You have fierce winds up to 115 miles an hour. And there's a potential, based on some of the forecasts I've been looking at, that we could actually get a storm that reaches Cat 4 status. That's why I think they have just kind of distanced their interval here at the National Hurricane Center between when it grows to a Cat 3 and what it does shortly after landfall. If you notice here, they don't have the interval for the landfall. So as we look at this here, I'm going to actually trick my graphics while we're live on screen. Who is in the direct path? Well, in case you have family and friends, I want to give you a good idea of who is here. So Alachipelago, we had a storm make landfall there within the past few seasons. Panama City, right on the edge. And then we have Tallahassee right there, and it goes all the way as far east as the I-10, I-75 interchange that would take you out to Jacksonville. So it looks like University of North Florida, Gainesville is going to stay out of that in Alachua County. However, at this point, you can see as far as Dothan, all the way out to waycross as you get into southern Alabama and southern Georgia there in the cone. It appears that this storm will still be a tropical storm Friday morning as it blazes over Albany there. And then we have Cordell. So now we're going to zoom out so we can get a better idea of what it looks like here in Georgia. I haven't seen this. It's pretty impressive that this cone literally includes the entire state. And it also includes a slither, if you will, of eastern Alabama, but all counties are caught up in here. And so our window for the roughest winds will be Friday morning, 2 a.m., 70-mile-per-hour winds possible. They should diminish as they climb to the north, but by 2 p.m. Friday, this thing should be to the north of us and should have been downgraded to a tropical depression. But tropical storm force winds are very much possible all the way up into the Atlanta metro area, and need I say into the mountains. As the winds will be dying, this storm will be flying. We're talking about a very quick move in a 12-hour period from south of the area all the way up into the Tennessee River Valley. After that, the storm is in our rearview mirror. It takes a curve to the west, and I don't think we have to worry about it much. I hope your questions are coming. We'll get to those in just a minute. I'm going to keep on working through the forecast here. So I've been showing this on my social media pages. We've been talking about, okay, if it shifts this way, it does that. If it does this, it does that. Okay, so let's make sense of this here. Green, let's just think green is good. Not good for folks who are in the direct path or who are on the eastern side of the green zone. I'm talking about good as in Metro Atlanta, North Georgia. Once again, it's a tropical system. No one wants to have to deal with this voluntarily. Nonetheless, if you're in the red, meaning the storm itself, the center of circulation, takes one of these paths, this path right here that goes through Alabama, any of these paths that really hook a left just to the west of the metro area, this puts us in the nasty zone, because the storm itself to the right of the eye wall is where you have your nastiest activity. So if the storm is further to the west, that means that we are now to the right, and that right quadrant, that front right quadrant, is going to be the part of the storm that's most problematic. So we're going to really be watching these areas here, because we're seeing really kind of a joining together of the models anywhere, you know, we're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 models just right over top of each other, and then one extreme solution that goes further out to the west, and then 3 solutions that suggest, okay, it may not be as far westward as we think, and the eastward track is more likely. If the storm takes this path, that's a good thing. We kind of miss out on the brunt of it. And many of you, especially as you get further into West Georgia, you'll stay dry. So that's a good thing. But at this point, the models are erring on the side of a higher impact with a westward solution. So what does that mean? I'm going to give you kind of the worst case scenario here, but we still got a while to see how this is going to unfold. So heavy rainfall for sure. We start getting rain tomorrow. That's non-tropical in variety, and then we add tropical rains for Thursday and through the first part of the day on Friday. With buckets of rainfall, the ground is going to be ripe for some flash flooding. It's been a dry September so far, but we're going to take that dry soil and we're going to just dump 6, 7, 8 inches of rainfall in your backyard on concrete, on asphalt, in a 48-hour period of time. There's going to be some flash flooding out there, either near waterways or just in areas that are low-lying, or areas where cells have trained or set over for a period of time. Also, we have the threat for damaging wind, and I may be upping this. I wish we had a way to put something in between medium and high, because I've seen some wind gusts, especially to the south and to the east of the Atlanta metro area, that are literally kind of scaring me. The tornado threat, once again, if we get that push where we're on the dirty side, on the right side, that means our threat for tornadoes, spin up tornadoes, generally EF2 and below, but there have been stronger tornadoes that have come out of tropical systems. That will be our problem to deal with. So here's how the model works out. First, we need to deal with an encroaching cold front. So by 6 o'clock tomorrow morning, you have rain up across far north Georgia, northwest Georgia to be specific. I think we get off to a dry start here in the Atlanta metro area. But if you're up to the north and even into the mountains, foothills, I think you got some showers. It won't be a straight morning of rain, but there will be some periods of heavy rain. And I also want to throw in the chance for some thunderstorms. It's now midday and I see a couple showers sneaking across the metro area. They seem to be light in nature based on this model. But then the activity just kind of pulses up as this front just sits here and decides to camp out for really what will be about 24 hours. It's now 8 o'clock at night. We're about 24 hours from where we are right now, and you can see that rain has relented a bit out west, but it's crawling to the east, and you can see it's taking over our eastern zones. If we get anywhere from about an inch and a half to 2-3 inches of rainfall just Wednesday, that's a problem because we have a whole nother system lying in waiting that's about to come up. So tomorrow's going to be a pretty rainy day. It's not going to rain all day long, and it's not going to be a totally severe situation, but it's what comes behind it that makes what we deal with on Wednesday problematic, because it's now 12 hours later, we're into Thursday morning. This front over here is still stuck in place. It's stationary. It doesn't move, and it's still slinging out some moisture. I'm talking about the rain is just coming on. We haven't had rain like this in a while, folks. Meanwhile, coming up from the south are the outer bands, those northern bands from Helene. It's made landfall or about to make landfall. And you can see here across South Georgia, of course across Florida Panhandle, you got some heavy rain. And it just keeps on coming. It's now 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You got rain all the way up into the mountains, into the Tennessee Valley. I do see a little bit of a break here. So central, middle Georgia, maybe there's kind of a calming of the activity. But at this point, we've already had about 24 hours of steady rain to a degree. So what happens next? Well, the real stuff comes later on Friday. The biggest story today in terms of the forecast cone has not really been, does it shift to the right or to the left? But what the National Hurricane Center has been consistent with, as the models have been suggesting, is that the storm is coming in a little bit later than we originally anticipated or we originally thought. We knew this would change, but now it's saying, okay, it's going to be shortly after midnight or before midnight when we have a landfall. Let's go with after midnight. And you can see here, this storm is sticking with a westward solution, and it likely climbs up the Alabama-Georgia state line. That's what I'm thinking at this point. The models have been pretty clear about that. That's what they've erred on, so I'm going to go with that for now. And you can see here, anybody on this right side, you're getting hit. You're getting hit hard. So that's 12 midnight. It's now 8 o'clock in the morning. So what am I trying to say here is that if you are a deep sleeper, you may be able to sleep through all of this. If you're freaked out by storms, you're a light sleeper, this is going to be a long and potentially sleepless night. The issue is if you go to sleep, you don't really know what's going on. So you got to figure out the alert situation. Make sure you have your Fox 5 Storm Team Weather app on your phone. You want to turn on the notifications and turn on the little sound things so you can hear it when it goes off. Or better yet, get your NOAA radio to let you know what's going on. Leave the TV on low if you're a TV sleeper, because if we were dealing with this during the day, I could say we're going to have you covered. And of course, the Fox 5 Storm Team has been here. We already got our schedules worked out where we're going to be here around the clock. The issue is that this is a nocturnal system. For us, it comes in the middle of the night. So you're going to wake up Friday morning to scores of rainfall, but also diminishing rainfall, and there could possibly be damage out there that occurred while you were simply just resting through the overnight hours. 8 o'clock, and this model really shoves some moisture out of here. We're still dealing with some pretty fierce winds by 6, but I think we're going to be able to recover the weekend. I know a lot of high school football games have been canceled. I won't be surprised if there's a pretty general calm across North Georgia by the time you get to Friday evening. Here's one thing that I think you should remember. The ground's going to be saturated, so it's not going to be good football. A lot of folks have turf out there too. So, but if you got a grass field, it's not going to be prime conditions for playing football on anyway. But are you going to actually have rain at game time around 7 o'clock? At this point, the model is saying no. Okay, so we got a couple more minutes left here, so let's run through these impacts. How much rainfall could you get? I'm not going to go neighborhood by neighborhood. Generally at this point, we're looking at 4 to 8 inches of rainfall. That's a lot of rain. In fact, in some cases, that's more than 2 months worth of rainfall that comes in 24 hours, 48 hours. That's a lot of rainfall, and as a result, the flooding risk has increased. We have a flood watch that's currently in effect for the entire state. It's already in effect. Really, it's Thursday or Wednesday through Friday, the entire state. Once again, what can you get? Anywhere from 4 to 8 inches. If you get less, just be grateful that you didn't have those problems. But I think we're going to all average somewhere around 4 to 6 inches, with 8 being on the higher end. Tomorrow, the brunt of the flood concern is for the metro Atlanta area to the north, all the way into the northeast Georgia mountains. Yellow, there's still a slight risk all across the state, but we'll expand that for Thursday, and we'll just blanket the entire area with a pretty significant risk for flash floods. In terms of wind, you can see here that there is a chance that we could get some tropical storm force winds. The chances are greater between I-75 and I-20 to the south and to the east of town. Griffin, Barnesville, Thomaston, Eaton, Lake Sinclair, Lake Oconee all come to mind. Newt County, Henry County, Butts County, Spalding County, Lamar, Pike, Upson County, Falsettos counties, that's where I'm expecting the strongest wind. You can see it here. It's now midnight going into Friday morning. 46 mile per hour gusts there in Thomaston. Let's hike that up to a 70 mile per hour gust in Eaton. Your trash can and your patio furniture will not stand a chance with that. Let's keep on with that wind. Okay, 65 mile per hour gust there in Covington. Softer winds, but still winds that will keep you up and that will move things around as far north as Rome. 35 mile per hour winds up there, but those winds are climbing into Hall County. 66 miles per hour there. Here in the metro area, you have wind gusts that are piping up to around 45, 50 miles an hour. The winds will gradually, not immediately, but they'll soften as the rain relents and moves up to the north. So here's the bottom line. Heavy rain, flash floods, tornadoes are possible, damaging wind. The impacts all across the state, but my focus really on at this point I-85 to the south and to the east, and well, I should say to the south of I-20, just generally. I'm going to make it that simple. Rain starts tomorrow. Tropical impact start as early Thursday as Friday. Here's a look at the Fox 5 Storm Team 7-day forecast. You can make sense out of it as much as you can. Really, the days of concern are Thursday and Friday. I have been watching this for a while, and we've been working with this storm to see exactly what it's going to do. I've gotten a number of questions in. I can't go through them too much, but I'm going to try to answer some of the main ones here. Once again, I can't really talk about exactly what I think is going to happen in your backyard because we just don't know how far the storm is going to go to the left or to the right at this point. Will they cancel flights on Thursday? The thing is, it's a night system, so if there's lightning out there, that's what leads to a ground stop. And it's going to be hard to go through, a hurricane. So if you have flights to the south or anywhere along the eastern seaboard, yeah, you may want to go ahead and start checking in with the airline. Questions coming in here. Can I give a work excuse? I wish I had the power to do so. I don't get one, so I don't think you're going to get one. Nonetheless, it's our pleasure to cover you all and to cover the system to make sure everyone's safe through it all. We see a lot of questions. Somebody here at Fox 5 has tapped in, and so I want to read this out loud. We see a lot of questions about which cities will be hit. GEMA and HS Director Chris Stallings says every county in Georgia will be impacted by Helene. Okay, that's a general statement by local officials. Obviously, some counties are going to get hit harder than other counties, but generally everybody should be following this yes or no list right here. As we look a little bit closer, will this affect schools? I don't want to get into this too much because we have so many people out there who are trained to do meteorology, and then people who are trained to make decisions about safety regarding other public activities. So at this point, they've been getting the forecast information. The National Weather Service is on top of it, and they're communicating with the GEMA. And so everybody basically has to take that information that they got, school systems, districts included, and they have to make their own decisions out of that. You can make your personal decisions, and my personal decision would be to stay at home Thursday night into Friday morning. Get up Friday morning and assess the situation and determine if I'm going to leave, go to work, go to school from that point on. But it's really a nighttime ordeal that we're starting to see here. So it's not going to be like you're going to be caught in the midst of a tropical storm rolling through on Thursday. It's not just going to catch you off. The slowing down of the system means that, okay, well, I think we'll be able to get through Thursday, albeit it's going to be messy, on and off rain, heavy downpours, increasing winds, but I don't think it's going to be so dangerous that you should absolutely just stay inside all day long and don't go out at all. As the night goes on, that's when you want to just shelter in place, and hopefully you can ride through the night without any problem, wake up Friday morning, figure out what happened, if it's safe to go out, and make a move at that point. They're giving me about a 4-minute warning here. So I'm trying to get into this. Some of you are asking about vacations and things like that. Generally, I tend to just err on the side of caution. You just want to go ahead and check and see. Check with the hotels, check with the airlines, and see what they have going on and what their weather policies are, and if your plans and your needs fit within that. But don't do anything that would cause you any harm. If you don't have to be out on the roads, if you don't have to be in the air over maybe about a 24-hour period from Thursday evening all the way through Friday midday, yeah, just kind of lay low. And if you can adjust your plans, do so. Some things are immovable, and you kind of have to work with what you got here. Got a lot of questions coming in. Yeah, a lot of you are asking about schools in specific locations. Here at Fox 5, we're sending all that information out to you on our website, fox5atlanta.com, and you can get all of the school closing information, delays, cancellations. But remember, you're in charge of your own safety for you and your family. You can make decisions for yourself, knowing exactly what your needs are. People have medical issues, people have fears about storms, people live in vulnerable areas, people have plans, people have jobs, duties, and responsibilities. You have to take individual ownership for what you should do. I've given you some information, I've given you some recommendations to work with here, but I can't tell these school systems and jobs and all that kind of stuff what to do necessarily. If they make the call, they make the call, but once again, pretty much you can make an individual call. And I do believe that by virtue of the fact that everybody in Georgia is going to be impacted to some degree, that people should be sensitive and understanding what you decide to do for yourself. All that said, I want to wrap up here. Thank you all for joining us. I will go through the questions, and there was something specific I missed, I'll try to comment and give you an answer. Also hit me in the DMs if you have some other questions. We're going to be on for Fox 5 News at 10 and at 11. 11 o'clock is important that you watch because we get a new forecast cone, and that may give us some new information or may shift a little bit. So we'll be glad to share that. Make sure you stay with the Fox 5 Storm team. Joanne's here in the morning. Alex Forbes is here tomorrow evening. Of course, our retiring meteorologist, Jeff Hill, has a pretty big week ahead. It ends in his retirement, but first he has to deal with Helene. He'll be in here during the midday period, and then I will be back to join him as we walk through Thursday night with you. Of course, Alex Forbes will join Joanne through the Friday morning period. So all hands are on deck. David is okay. David is just on vacation this week. So that's what's going on behind the scenes. Everybody's good and locked in. All hands are on deck here. We're going to be working to make sure you stay safe and do your job, and make sure you stay safe and protect those who you love, yourself, and your property as well. I'm Jonathan, Stacey. I hope you all have a safe night and safe week ahead. And once again, continue to check back for updates. I'll see you later.